20% of the world, they say, is neurodiverse or has some sort of learning difficulty. In my experience, it's much higher than 20%.
His extensive work in advancing inclusive practices across institutions and societies continue to inspire meaningful change worldwide. Mr. Gudgeon, may I kindly request you to address the gathering?
I'd like to talk to you a little bit about inclusion and why everybody in this room should care about it. And I'm sure you already do. But first, I'll just explain my journey, my physical journey, here to this venue today, starting from London Heathrow Airport, where I had booked some wheelchair assistance because I knew that it was going to be difficult for me to walk through the airport. I arrived, I got out of the taxi, there was no one to meet me. I walked through, and at the time, it was about a week ago, I was in quite a lot of pain. And I walked to the passenger assistance desk with a heavy suitcase and a crutch, limping, and they told me I had to go to check-in first. So I went to check-in. And at check-in, they directed me to the passenger assistance area, which is on the furthest corner away from the check-in desk. So I had to then hobble over to that corner, where I was met at a new check-in desk in a dark, dingy, cold waiting room. And I waited for 30 minutes before somebody who looked like they hated me turned up to take me to the gate. I said, I don't want to go to the gate yet. I booked some space in a lounge. I'm not going to wait at the gate for 3 hours. And they said, well, we can't take you there. So I then walked back all the way to the security gate and went to go through the accessibility line. And they said to me, you can't go through here because you have to be pushed through in a wheelchair. So even though I was clearly walking with crutches, I had to then walk through the normal line and queue like everybody else. They then asked me to take my boot off, and I said, it's extremely painful for me to do that. And they said, you have to take your boot off. They took my crutch away from me and made me walk through the x-ray with no support at all, which was extremely painful. At one point, one of the people said to me, what's your purpose of travel? And I said, it's very ironic because I'm actually going to prepare an accessibility conference, an inclusion conference in India, and I'm receiving some of the worst experiences that I've ever encountered in this particular field. So I give Heathrow Airport 0 out of 10 for inclusion. I arrived in Delhi Airport where I was met, I had to wait to be the last person to get off the plane. Everybody else got off first. And then it was just me and all of the flight attendants chatting at the end. Now, I was very happy with that. They were very pretty, and it was a perfectly pleasant experience for me. But it was me and an elderly lady who had to wait till the very, very end. Fine for me, but this old lady was quite vulnerable, and she had to wait until everybody else had left. And then we were taken to another lounge where we waited for 30 minutes for somebody to pick us up by wheelchair and then take us through. I give Delhi Airport 6 out of 10 for inclusion. And then when I arrived today at Indore Airport, the first thing that happened as I got off the plane, somebody noticed I was with a crutch, and they said, sir, do you need any help? It's the first time anybody actually offered me help. Sir, do you need any help? Actually, no thank you, I'm fine. But then 4 other people on my way through the airport offered me help, including offering me a wheelchair. So I give Indore Airport 10 out of 10 for inclusion. Congratulations, Indore. Heathrow Airport has a lot to learn about. When we talk about inclusion, I think many people assume that we are talking about the extremely challenging children with quite profound needs in a classroom, school-age classroom, who are often referred to a special educator. That is absolutely inclusion. However, once those children have been removed from the classroom, the WHO, the World Health Organization, maintains that 20% of the class still have learning differences or difficulties. 20% of the world, they say, is neurodiverse or has some sort of learning difficulty. In my experience, it's much higher than 20%. We think in the IFIP, it's around 30%. And these 30% go through their lives, they haven't been referred to the special educator, maybe they don't have a special educator, or maybe their need is not profound enough to need the special educator, but they go through their life in school being slightly misunderstood, slightly underperforming, sometimes misbehaving because they can't access the curriculum, and they are struggling, and they struggle. Now, why is this relevant to everybody in this room? Because I'm talking about school-age children. Well, when you become a university student and an adult in the workplace, you don't suddenly leave that 20%. You are still in that 20%. And therefore, we believe all universities should care, all higher education should care about this just as much as school teachers should. What accessibility arrangements are there in the schools? What understanding do lecturers and tutors have of different learning styles? Somebody said to me that this would be very useful for a liberal arts university. I said, why liberal arts? Why not a technology university? Think about the person who's extremely good, extremely gifted at mathematics. Chances are, a very high chance, that they will be somewhere on an autistic spectrum. And that is what gives them their rare gift for mathematics. Similarly, high-performing artists, musicians, athletes, all have very strong likelihood of being neurodiverse in some way. And it is our duty to look after these people. So I believe that this is something that is actually, that this 20% needs to be looked after, not just in school, but all the way through their life. And this is one of the things that we're going to be talking about at the conference, the large conference that we're organizing in Yashobhoomi in Delhi at the end of July. Now, I promise I will be very quick with my next part. I've said what we mean by inclusion. But what I'd like to say is why everybody in this room should care about inclusion. And I've referred already to why higher education leaders should care about inclusion. Why should technology people care about inclusion? I have 3 good reasons, and I'm going to keep this very snappy. 4 good reasons. Reason number 1, it's the right thing to do. Often these are the most vulnerable people in society, but are often the most neglected. There's a moral imperative there. Reason number 2, there are regulatory reasons why we have to do it, even though in many cases we're not doing it. Reason number 3, 20% of the population is a huge market. It's an enormous market. And accessibility and looking for inclusion actually opens up huge potential for companies, and it gives them a differentiator because they are now opening their doors to the full population rather than 80% of the population. And the 4th reason, I would argue, that this is important is because of the trickle-down. Many developments in accessibility and inclusion in tech have actually turned out to be benefiting of many other people for whom the development was not initially designed. And I'll give you an example. In the London headquarters of Google, they have an accessibility discovery center where they invite lots of tech companies to provide their examples of their own tech. And if you're not displayed there, then you can simply tell them that you'd like to be, and they will incorporate you. And it's a wonderful showcase of a beautiful array of technology. Now, one of the things they showed me was a screen reader for dyslexic people. A very simple concept. The end of one line is in a color, let's say blue, and the beginning of the next line is in blue. And then the end of that line is red to red, blue to blue, red to red. For people who are dyslexic, who find it very difficult to skip from line to line when they're reading. They showed me this, and I read what was on the screen, and I said, I have never in my life read so easily. And they said to me, are you dyslexic? And I said, I have many challenges in my life, but dyslexia happens not to be one of them. I am not dyslexic. And yet, for me, all of a sudden, I was able to read at least twice as quickly because of this little support, which wasn't designed for me. So the trickle-down imperative, I think, is incredibly valuable. Technology which is developed for inclusive reasons really do benefit the whole world. I promised I would keep this short, and that is what I had to say. I hope I've compelled you to care about inclusion. I'm sure you already do. Please continue the good work. Thank you very much.